Is atheism intellectual? I'm going to give you 7 reasons that I do not believe that atheism is intellectual. If you hang out, I'll give you 8. One of the first things is that atheism starts from a closed position. It is not open to any truth or the truth or whatnot. It starts from a closed position, which is empiricism. It is my senses, what can come through my feeling, taste, touch, sound, sight, whatever comes through my senses that I can physically lay hands upon, that can process through my mind. I start from the closed position that is the only reality, and that is the reality that everybody else experiences, and I am only open as far as that. Now that just kind of seems silly considering that's a single person experience throughout the entire universe. And those that believe that the universe just sprung out of nothingness and there's chaos everywhere and there's probably foreign life here and there and new dimensions on that, that's really closed-minded. So it's kind of like a very ambiguous mindset. So atheism, first of all, starts from a closed position. The next thing that it does is atheism is actually so anti-intellectual that it can't even be defended. Soon I'm going to make a video about the types of atheism, but a lot of times people they know they don't want to go to church and they don't really like God, and so they just dub themselves, I'm an atheist, without thinking about it, without investigating what that means, without even processing their belief system. And so atheists usually start by just this vast proclamation, I don't believe in God. And I don't believe, and then they get pressed a little more, like, I do not believe God exists. And people go, you really don't think God exists? No, God does not exist. And they were like, well, how can you be so certain of that? And then they begin to throw philosophy at them, and then math and science their direction. And so atheism has to come away from being completely foolish and a rush happenstance kind of mindset to it devolves or comes up a little bit from atheism into agnosticism, which is the position of I don't know, or I can't know, or we don't know. It's actually the same heart, the same mindset as atheism, but you just can't pin it down. And so atheism is so anti-intellectual that it can't even be defended, and so it has to shift its positions. But just so you know, agnosticism is atheism in disguise. If you look to the next thing that makes it not really intellectual, is that most atheists are not really looking for the truth. They're not really looking for facts. When they get into an engagement with somebody that's asking questions, they basically want to look for responses. There is a much different thought process here going on, a much different way of living when you are looking for responses instead of looking for truth. If you're looking for responses, you just want to appear to be right. You want to appear to know what you're talking about. You want to appear that your position is solid, but you're not really looking for the truth. You're not going to dig past how your response might fall apart to the truth and then look to see if that has a response to it and see if there's a depth behind that. A lot of times, atheists, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of times instead of being intellectual and actually looking for truth and facts, they're looking just for responses. So it's not really an intellectual process. Also, within and an atheist will tell you that, don't lump some of us together, okay? But atheism as a field is full of lies. I'm sorry, but if someone doesn't believe that there is moral objective truth, then they feel the freedom to lie. And so we see atheism, since oftentimes it cannot win the intellectual debate, it will lie. A lot of times this will devolve into personal reasons, personal motivations, and the atheist, so as not to lose the debate, will lie about something. Now, we know this because atheists that are coming out of that admit to these things. We also know that just from what the scripture tells us. We can also some of us can perceive that when a person is doing so. But not just do atheists lie about their internal motivations and lie even to themselves, they will bring the lies into the professional realm. So the atheist that is living in the professional community will lie about things. And two ways that really stands out a lot of times is the way they phrase jargon. Instead of saying this, they will say that, or they will take what we know as a term, as human beings would typically call it, and then they will call it by another term as if the application of the meaning somehow changes or doesn't apply at that point. I don't know how to state it any better than that at this point. I'm sorry. But we also know that atheists lie because they have tried to create missing links in the past. You have examples of this. So why in the world would an atheist who is right ever need to create missing links? But this has happened on multiple occasions. So is atheism intellectual? Like, if it was really intellectual, why would it need to lie to cover its framework and background, etc.? Also, atheism often doesn't, it's not building anything. It is not constructing anything. Atheism is and becomes an attack. It's just an attack. It doesn't even matter what it's attacking. It just keeps attacking, because the way that happens is with, like I said, the atheist masking themselves as an agnostic. They just keep saying, well, I doubt that. I doubt that too. I doubt that's the case. I doubt, and it's just a constant attack. Now, is that intellectual to just doubt everything? Is it intellectual to just hide behind, well, I can always win from this pseudo position by saying I doubt, or that's really not the case, or prove it? That's just like an easy place to stand, but that's not really intellectual. It's more positional, if anything. And so typically, if we were in just a human to human argument, not a religion versus atheist argument, and so I was just like, I doubt that, you'd eventually go, hey, let's just, let's quit talking. Like, we can't do reality together because you won't trust the basic things. Is atheism actually intellectual? Does it really insightfully peer into things? Does it insightfully digest and investigate things? Or is it more of an information regurgitation type of spectrum? So often when I get into conversations or debates with atheists, they just regurgitate information. And that is one way to appear to be more intellectual than you are. I know this because of the temptation to do it myself. Like, why not read 10 pages out of 1,000 books, and then you can reference those books in conversation, like, oh, I was reading in such and such book, and here's some facts, blah, 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 blah. Well, oftentimes you can tell that the atheist hasn't quantified the information for themselves. They haven't intellectually reasoned through it, but they went and just looked up a response to throw at you, because it's not well reasoned. It doesn't mesh with the fabric of all reality, and thus it is more of information regurgitation and spewing, which really isn't intellectual. It's just kind of egotistical in actuality. Also, if atheism is intellectual, it's not intellectual in this regard at all. Christopher Hitchens, in a recent interview with other atheists, was like, guys, none of us have time to research all the fields. I just kind of have to trust what you're saying from your fields. Basically, I see things the way I see them based off my trust of the way all of you, plural, are seeing them. If you in field A over here tell me that atheism is true, and you in field B over here tell me atheism is true, and C over here, then I can actually see it in my field as being true. There is a ton of professional assumption. We see this all the time. These fields, you prop up each other by endorsing and and assumptively accepting each other, but there's not the substance there. That's not really intellectual. And the last part is it truly intelligent to consider things with only your mind? Now, I am not saying to not use your mind to evaluate things, but there are so many things that we evaluate with more than our mind. We evaluate certain things with our personality. We're like, now this is a really nice car and this got this much expense to it. My insurance is going to be such and such. But we also evaluate it with our heart, and we're like, I really think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I feel like it would be satisfactory to engage in this, and so we do. Or is it always good and proper to evaluate things with our mind concerning our relationships or things around us? And we see that the mind often by itself fails. I can't tell you how many people I've seen with their mind walk into a gym and say, with my mind, I am going to lift this, and then their body that they didn't consider failed to follow through with X exercise, etc. And so is it intellectual to only consider things with your mind? Or might there be times to consider things with your heart?